We are now.
Oh, sorry, we're on now.
Yeah, she
Nobody
just,
heard me say anything.
no. She just turned it on. I'm not sure if Rachel's coming at 6 o'clock and I know people have places to go, so let's do it. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Public Works Subcommittee. It's February 14th. We're in the Town Council chambers. Let's do roll call.
Jacina,
Vitale.
Lafferty,
In Demers. So we have, did you guys actually, and Rachel, did you guys get the minutes to,
I had them on my phone. the
Yeah, I
minutes. Yes, I have. 'em
Okay,
on my
so-
phone. Did you get them on your
Yep.
phone?
Yep.
Yeah.
all right. We only accepted it, right?
Oh, yes, we do from the last time.
Yeah, yeah. Hi, Rachel, how are you?
Hi, Rachel.
You didn't miss anything. We're gonna call for a motion to accept the minutes of the December 13th, 2021 regular meeting.
Want me to make that motion?
Sure.
I'll make that motion to accept the minutes.
Thanks, Rob.
I'll second.
Thanks, Gary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Awesome. Lord, is there anyone out there? Perfect. So we'll move on to item 5, correspondence and attachments. Might want to address the mailbox item A issue.
So I'll moving forward, any emails, letters, complaints, or anything I think relevant, I'll put in there, just so you have it in the packet under correspondence and attachments, and then we can get to it when we get to new business, if that's how you want to do it. Just so you have it all in the packet.
Sure.
So I did put in the correspondence and attachments tonight, Town of Watertown mailbox policy, which I think we need to review and discuss, and also an engineer's estimate for, and I have a drawing of the proposed work too, when we get to that under new business, but so we'll move on if you, I don't know if you want to discuss old business and we'll get into the new. If you want
Yeah.
to follow along on the agenda.
We can discuss that.
Are we going to discuss the mailbox?
Oh, do you want to
issue, or
discuss
do
it
you
before
want
we get
to?
to? Yeah, we can discuss it. I didn't know if you wanted to wait till we get to new business or not. That's what I was asking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I misunderstood you. We'll wait till we get to that
Yes, sir.
point. No problem.
Okay.
We have item B for Echo Lake Road.
That, I have an engineer's estimate. I'm gonna give you drawings too. I didn't want to put them in the packet because it would have made it too bulky and it went scanned and went through. But
Through the chair.
Sure.
The Ecker Lake Road matter regarding the lanes of traffic. I think it's been corrected pretty well from driving that way 2, if not more times a day. And the way it's set up now until it's taken care of when the weather permits to do so, I think Public Works did a good job resolving that issue.
yeah, we had thought about barriers, but he put extra barrels out there. We put more crushed rock in there and we monitored it. And I drive it several times a day. So we chose to watch it and we were comfortable with it. We were comfortable with it when there was snow on the ground, so we left it as is. So thank you.
Thank you.
Is the item D under new business also the same subject?
Yeah, I
Okay.
was going to give you a little explanation on what we're proposing and what you'll see in the next couple
Okay.
of meetings.
Okay, we'll wait till we get to new business.
Yeah.
So old business, Buckingham Street and Ball Farm Road.
Nothing really new to report, other than we still haven't heard back. Paul Benevich put in a grant application under hazardous mitigation, and we have not heard back yet. So with any luck, we'll get some relief and maybe we'll be in a position, we'll probably know over the summer or later this year whether or not we're gonna. We also met with engineering staff, the town manager and I met last week with another agency, and off the top of my head, I wish I wrote it down. But they deal with cross culverts and flooding in areas that are prone. So we discussed this as well as several others. So there is a potential second funding source where we may get some relief on this or other drainage issues in town.
Sure.
Are we talking about the culverts around there? Are we talking about the woman's backyard with pipe?
This was identified along with probably 8 or 10 other drainage. So they want to know where it's impacted roads. This one they actually liked because it impacts state roads as well. So there was a local and a state component to it. So again, no guarantees. They wanted to hear us. They wanted an explanation from the town, and Bobby Grand Prix was there, Paul Benevich, Joe Millette. They have a lot of history, and after we gave them all of our data, they took a lot of notes. They were typing as we met, and they're going to get back to us. So again, there's a hazardous mitigation application on this that staff did, and I guess hopefully that's looked at favorably, and if not, there's a potential funding source on the flip side. So.
And that's to.
Yeah, they would look at,
Yes.
They would look
exactly
at,
it.
identify the problem, and then, whether it's a percentage or 100%, each project that they approve is gonna be different. Some could be 100%, some could be 80, some could be 50. Not if they approve them. There's no guarantee they're gonna approve them either, so.
And she hasn't been back here really because of winter time.
Yeah.
I know we have rains again. She's gonna be back here.
Well,
We should have some type of-
you don't even need rain. I was there Saturday and Sunday. And the water was flowing like a river behind Ordinary Joe's. And we haven't really had any heavy rain.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be the snow melting and whatever, but as soon as the temperature changes, I mean, that's disaster.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, I'm talking it this deep on Sunday afternoon at 3:30.
Yeah, no, I've been by it a few times in the winter, and when the temperatures were up and we got a little rain or some snow melt, it's definitely moist.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely moist there.
Yeah, you can't walk. They have a barrier there now, a Jersey barrier, so nobody parks there because it probably gets too slippery, but they're trying to avoid people using the back door because you step off the deck. I mean, you're stepping right into a, 1.5 inches of flowing water. It's a mess.
Is it still blocked, the pipe, or just?
Oh, I would guess.
Yeah.
So have you been up there?
No.
It's like a homegrown drainage system that somebody put there, and it's starting to collapse in spots. And I'm sure there was some branches and some things that plugged it up too, but it's way up into the person's yard. So that's been the problem. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's whose responsibility is it? But the problem is that the water during heavy rainstorms, it comes, just blows everything out, fills the lady's basement up, then the fire department's there, pumping her basement out. It's a mess, but whose responsibility is it? We really don't know.
To this point, I think it's been determined that it's the property owner's responsibility. The state seems to be in the same position. And in fact, if you look through the files, there's a legal opinion from attorneys of the town that say, don't go on the property. Don't. So, I mean, I think it's well established. It's a private property matter. And I understand that it's a huge burden on them, and they probably couldn't afford it. So again, if it qualifies for these grant opportunities, maybe that hopefully that they get some relief.
In that homeowner on Ball Farms Road, I mean, she bought that property at like 15. So she's only been there, 6 or 7 years. And I think it's gotten worse for her every year since she bought the house.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the people that owned it prior to her probably knew what was going on underground, You know, they had to obviously have done the work. So,
I wouldn't disagree that the last 2 years have been worse because the last two falls have been extremely wet. If you go back to 2020, the summer was kind of dry, and then in the fall, it got really wet really fast, and we got a lot of rain in October, November into December. And last year, we had, you know, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a hydraulic engineer, but they talk about these 25, 50, 100-year storms, which means, you know, a 25-year storm, you're only supposed to have a 4% chance of getting, and we've been having multiple 25-year storms.
yeah,
So there's been, you look at last July, there was two Fridays in a row. There was a huge rainstorm in August. So I'm sure when you get something exceptional like that, yeah, they're having even more problems there, and they've been happening more frequently.
so I mean, I took a video of it when I saw it on Sunday afternoon, and I don't remember the last time it rained that heavy, but
When I first came here in October, there was a couple good rainstorms, and I saw it. It was late October, and then maybe first week in November, it was bad.
Christ, there's not a little kid there with a fishing pole. It's crazy. Anything else on item A?
No.
All right. Turkey Brook.
Turkey Brook, Bob went there and did some maintenance. I don't think we accomplished everything he wanted to before the cold weather came in. So I'm sure that when the weather breaks for good next month, we'll probably be spending a little more time there. He did get started before the cold weather and the snow set in, but again, I'm sure there's still some work left to be done. And maybe I'll get an update from him when we meet next time.
Sounds good. Anybody have any questions?
I just wondered.
Sure, Gary.
Does Turkey Brook start from Silver Lake Road or going down?
Yeah. Yeah, the part where we're gonna do work is by the senior center.
Okay.
And then maybe up towards Sylvan Lake Road, you know, but the biggest problems we were having was by the senior center and a little, you know, heading in that direction. So if they dredge it, clear some vegetation, I think we'll get a lot better flow down there.
Sounds good. Item 7, new business,
So the
mailbox.
mailbox policy. As Ken is aware, I received a call from a homeowner a few weeks back. It was Tuesday, January 18th, I believe. On the day before, which was a holiday, Martin Luther King Day, we had a 2-inch really wet, heavy snow. And as a result of that, while the guys were clearing snow on Winding Brook Farm, a few mailboxes fell down. Now, the policy is very specific. And if we don't, if the plow edge does not come into contact with the mailboxes, the town is not responsible. This is absolutely the case here. The resident was upset. He didn't agree with it. He called me twice a day for a week plus. He asked me for Ken's number because he looked up who was the chair of this committee. I refused to give out a personal cell phone number. He did come in and meet with Sue Zappone and I the following week because Mark was on vacation. I thought he may be here tonight. I do have several.
Invited. He was invited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do have several pictures if you want to see, but I guess if anything positive came out of that, you know, taking a look at this, I think $40 in this day and age is not enough. It wouldn't have changed the outcome in this case because clearly, you know, we get a call from a resident. We don't jump to conclusions. We don't say we did it. We don't say we didn't do it. We go out and investigate it. And I'll go, well, let me start off. First of all, if the guys know they hit it and it happens a few times a year, they're very good about it. Earlier this winter, we had a weekend storm, and on Monday morning, Bob was out replacing mailboxes, and he said, we hit a couple mailboxes over the weekend, and the residents didn't have to call. They know they did it. The guys are responsible. When we make a mistake, we go out and fix it. Then there's the other scenarios where, you know, we could have, you know, you're driving a truck that weighs 50, 60,000 pounds with a load of sand on it. You could clip a mailbox and not even feel it. So what we do in that situation, if the residents call us, we'll go out and investigate it. And we'll look for paint transfer, dents, scratches. If you hit a mailbox with a 50,000-pound truck, you're gonna see evidence, right? And then there's the other one. There's this scenario where mailboxes go down because of the snow cast off the edge of the plow. And people want us to replace their mailboxes, and unfortunately, we don't. And this policy, I think, is written well. It's consistent with what every other towns have in place. So again, it wouldn't have changed the outcome of this, but in this particular case, looking at the dollar amount in this day and age, I think we need to update it because so again, if we know we hit them, or if we go out there and find evidence that we hit them, we offer to replace them ourselves first, so the homeowners do not have to. If the homeowner has something a little bit more elaborate than the basic, because we stock the basic 4x4 wooden post with a plastic or metal mailbox. If they have something more elaborate, then they'll get a receipt and we'll reimburse them up to amount. And today it's $40. I'd like to discuss and maybe amend it to $75 would be my recommendation. And I say that because I know we're paying $40 for posts now, and we're paying $20 to $25 for mailboxes plus tax. So to be fair to the residents, if we find ourselves in a situation where we know we damaged it and they don't want us to do it for them because they want to buy something more, I don't think $40 is appropriate.
Sure. Through the chair. I can remember this $40 amount being in effect at least 20 years.
Yeah,
And I'd have to agree, $75 is a fair amount now to offer the people. I don't think the plowers are there doing it intentionally.
No.
It's accidental. And a friend of mine lives on Pondview, and amount of snow from the plow hit his mailbox and his post, and it came down. That's the price we pay for living in New England
yeah.
in the wintertime. And unfortunately, also, I don't think a complaint as such should rise to the level of the town manager, nor to the town council, public works subcommittee. I think it's well to be handled by the public works director and his staff. And the man was, I'm correct in saying he was invited here tonight?
Yeah, he was. He wanted to, when he emailed me, and said, when is the next meeting? I mean, I have to give him the date. So he wanted to come talk to us, but I don't, as Lou said, I mean, there was really, in this scenario, the guy had a very expensive mailbox and he wasn't having the $40. So he wanted to come and talk to everybody.
Through the chair again,
Sure.
sir. I'd like it to reflect on the record for this meeting that he was invited through Public Works, through the Public Works Subcommittee, and he is not showed here tonight. I'm also making a recommendation that we go no further on this item. That's my motion.
I agree with your motion. I do think that we need to change the policy to 75.
Exactly. Yes, I agree on that.
Do we, as this board, have the authority to do that, or do we have to just make a recommendation to the rest of the town council for the town council?
I'm not sure, to be honest, Rob.
Then it would fall within the realm of an ordinance. This is more of a policy from a department, a given department, Public Works. They just want to change it to be $75 here and after anybody.
Yeah, and understand that this, we probably. There hasn't been one of these, then nobody's submitted a receipt to this point this winter, and we're at the tail end of it, hopefully. Again, the majority of them, if we know we did it, we voluntarily go out and replace them. Or if they bring it to our attention because we didn't know, we go out, we find evidence of paint transfer, dents, impact. We don't argue with them, we replace them. Again, this is a small percentage of the time when we know we hit them and they just want something more than the base model. So I haven't had one person submit a receipt for me based on this yet. But again, after this, reviewing it based on this particular resident's other concerns, I think we should look at it.
Yes, Gary.
I just wondering, I mean, I noticed the past year or two, they've been using the wing plows on the plow trucks now, and they're doing all the roads in town, not just out in the outskirts or whatever. I was just wondering if this is why we're fitting more mailboxes or whatever.
No, I don't think so. They're good about it. They do them when there's open runs. If they're in a residential neighborhood, they're not gonna drop that thing down. And again, I mean, in this particular matter, and Lauren has pictures if you guys are interested. As soon as he called me, I got a couple calls that day because a few mailboxes did go down. I went out there and you could see the cast off the snow. There's 2 feet of snow in front of the curb. In fact, we didn't even get as far as where the catch basins stick out. So the plow was all of a couple feet. He was hung up on the fact that he put like a half a sheet of plywood on top of it, or like a menu board to protect it. And in fact, that probably hurt him in this scenario because you got this big piece of plywood and this snow was so wet heavy because I shoveled it the day before that it held all that extra weight. And then there was the other part. I mean, you could see where the snow is a couple feet in front of the boxes. I mean, you might as well flick them, Lauren, show them where you can see where the mailbox is. There's no evidence of, yeah, you could see, and then you could still see the snow's way in front of the mailboxes, so we didn't hit them. And then, I mean, look at the mailboxes, they're fully intact. Lauren, could you go back? Yeah, right, those 2 right there. You know, you go out there, if we didn't know we hit them and the resident calls, we go out and inspect. You look for dents, paint transfer, cracks. Again, if you hit that mailbox with a plow on a 50,000-pound truck, you're gonna see, those things are gonna smash. And then if you scroll a little more, Laura, one of them, there's this plywood thing, but if you could see these, one of those posts there was so rotted. I mean, I don't know how old Winding Brook Farm is, 30 years old, maybe mid-90s, early 90s.
Early 90s.
Yeah, so I would venture that post is probably an original one and it was due to be replaced anyways. So again, I think the verbiage and the policy, I just think the amount that we do reimbursed when we do own it should be looked at and increased a little bit. It wouldn't have changed the outcome on this one because it still would have been denied because there's obviously no evidence of impact and you could see that we were a couple feet off the curb.
So should we just table this item until we find out who has the authority to change the number? Or is that something do you feel?
I mean,
could do?
if you're comfortable, make the motion and if it gets approved, we could, if we have to take it back, I'll put it on for the next big
Sure.
council meeting. Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we raise the mailbox replacement $40 to $75.
Second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Should we consider retroactively allowing this resident to apply for the $75?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
I was just wondering if we could or should consider if we're allowed to do this, increasing it to $75 allows this resident to apply sort of retroactively to be reimbursed.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any that happened, I would say moving forward, but again, we're not in this particular case that we've been discussing, because we didn't hit it, there was no evidence, it wasn't constructed properly, we're not reimbursed it anyways. I just said as a result of this, we looked at the
Oh.
policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's just hit by the snow,
If it's hit by the
There's-
snow, it doesn't, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Some people, if you install it properly, and there's policies online, the face of the mailbox is supposed to be a few inches behind the face of the curb, which would mean that your post is 2 feet behind the curb. Some people put them so, and it's a catch-22 because the post office wants them out as far as.
right?
But if you construct them properly, they won't get hit, even if you ride the curb. And B, the further back you put them, the less in harm's way they are with the weight of the snow coming off. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. And like I said, the guys are good. If we know we hit them, we own it. If we don't know we hit them and we go out there and there's evidence that we hit them, we own it. We don't, it happens. Nobody's gonna lie and, it's just, I've been doing this a long time and I could tell you that every year, I don't care what town I was in, Waterbury, Cromwell, or now here, when they know they hit them, they go out the next day after the storm's over and they go out and replace them. Every public works probably stocks 6 to 10 every year. And then when they put them out, they go replace it. We just bought a few more to replace ones we replaced. So.
All right. Anything else?
That's it on the mailbox.
All right.
policy.
So item B, 2022-23 budget discussion.
This is the big one. So I submitted my, both my operations budget and capital budget to Mark and Sue back in December. And in fact, I've met with them twice and I anticipate, some cuts and reductions. I just wanted to explain to you, because it will come to you, the whole board. It was up approximately 9 to 9.5%.
I'm sorry, how much of a percent?
About 9.5%.
9.5?
And I just wanted to get in your ear now. Some of it was what we discussed at the last meeting, 55,000 that I think we absolutely, and I hope you all support, is that pavement management analysis. I told Mark if there's one thing that has to stay, it's that one, in my opinion. I mean, ultimately, the decision is yours. I think when you drive around the roads in this town, there's a lot of work to be done. In fact, you get to a week like last week where you get mild temperatures and cold this week, potholes popping galore. The potholes are a result of poor roads. If we had been paving all along and our roads, the roads that are in better condition, you don't see this problem. So I think that one tool, this one pavement analysis study will educate everybody and kind of hopefully let us make a plan, follow a blueprint. I think I understand the work that's out there. I want everyone else to understand it. So again, part of that 9.6%, that's a big one that I hope you would support. There were some other capital items. I think Mark's gonna cut some of them and I can live with that. I put in a big increase for asphalt in the highway department. And again, I had $48,000 in that line item, and that's for this fiscal year. And as of the asphalt plants closing in December, we had already spent 123. So obviously 48,000 isn't enough. I got April, May, and June out in front of me, and we're gonna go through a lot of asphalt, patching these roads, replacing curb. So that's about $75,000 increase, and I don't think it's enough. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of it. I normally try to come in as close to zero as possible, 1-2%. But I felt when I put the budget together that I'd be remiss if I didn't ask for these things that I think we absolutely need. So I understand I have to live with the cuts. You guys have to be responsible to the taxpayers, but I just want you to know that I think it's things we really need. And if we don't get them, we're going to be in a tough spot where we can't provide the services that I feel we should be providing.
What did you put in for equipment?
I put in for 3 pieces. I put in for a new sweeper, a new backhoe, and a little skid steer with a milling attachment. From meeting with Mark and Sue last week, the second time, I think a couple of those pieces may be vulnerable. And again,
Since you were involved in the water rate, excuse me, through the chair.
Oh, sure.
Since you're involved in the water rate, I've given this a lot of thought. This town really operates two separate maintenance programs. The school department operates their own, and they buy all this equipment. You operate your own and buy all this equipment. Do you have any experience where other towns have consolidated that both the
Some.
education side?
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot of the smaller towns do that. In fact, again, I came from Cromwell, not much smaller than Watertown in population, 14.5. They didn't really own any heavy equipment because they relied on us to do everything. And in the summer, when their schools were out, we did as much as we could for them. So they had a couple little mason trucks. They had small pieces and they did their essential. And I'm not saying I want to do all their work, but yeah, they do share equipment in the smaller towns. I can tell you the 3 pieces I put in for, Bobby Grand Prix had a list of 6. And again, just so you know, knowing I was already up 9%, I trimmed it to that because I would have been up 19% if I had put in for the 6 pieces he thought he needed. So I said, what are the 3 you absolutely need? And I, tried to convey that. So, and again, we'll live with whatever you do. I just really, want to be able to be more efficient out there. I know at the end of winter, and again, the potholes are all over the place. As soon as the weather breaks in April, I want to get both sweepers out there. I want to follow the sweepers with patch trucks. I want to, before Memorial Day, I want this town to be cleaned and patched. And that's always been a goal of mine at wherever municipality I was at. And I hope to be able to do it here, but you can't do it without equipment or asphalt. You certainly can't do it, So I'd like to, raise the standard, so to speak. And I can't do that without support. So.
Through the chair, and I guess this is directed to the chair. I don't know if there's other towns that do that, but it kind of seems foolish to me to have a school department having all this equipment and then us having all this equipment. And I'm sure we're not using some equipment, and there should be that. We should have some common talking. And I don't even, who mows Pressbrook? Is that another separate division?
Parks and Recreation
Yeah,
handle all
So
of
Park and Rec has mowers, the school has mowers and,
Oh, I
do they-
understand exactly
do
what
they-
you're saying. Sure.
Do they, do they put mowers out to bid at the same time, or is the school sitting there saying, no, we're different than towns, we bid out our mowers and, or we could lump them in together, or you don't need them because somebody else has them. So I guess that's probably a bigger conversation.
Sure.
Of this committee, but it just seems like if you're gonna want to start saving money to be able to put towards something else, these discussions need to start happening.
I agree, Rob. Would it be a lot of work to try to get a list of what the school has for equipment? The
Can
Board
ask.
of Ed?
I can ask, yeah, I don't know anyone and I haven't met anyone in the Board of Ed Maintenance Department, but I'll start here and see.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could ask too, but would you do that, Lou?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair, Ken.
Sure, yeah.
Lou, on the, I know you said the 55,000 for that road program thing, software.
Mhm.
I know that's taking a lot of the work away from the actual town engineer.
Well, not really. First of all, there's plenty of work out there. I think from what I've been told is they tried to accomplish this over a few summers with engineering interns. And they never got there. But again, that was a fraction of what this will do for you. A company will send 4 or 6 people in here. They'll be here for a few weeks driving every road and every section of every road. So there'll be, 10, maybe 10 or 12 weeks worth of field data. They'll do it in 3 weeks because they'll have all those people here. They'll consolidate it. They'll give us a software program, but what they'll do is they'll put what they call PCI, pavement condition index, a grade to every road, where when you freshly pave a road, it's 100. My guess is that our average PCI, you strive for 85 in New England. My guess, we're probably in the high 60s. That's my guess. Because some roads are 40 and 50 are poor, very poor. They'll put it all on a map for you. They'll put a map of the town with every road on it, and they'll put it in a color, red being the worst, orange being the next worst, yellow. And then you could see as a whole what our whole road inventory looks like. They'll also, that program that they install for you, hypothetically, whether we were to take out a bond or start putting money aside every year in a capital budget, wherever the funding sources were, say this year, I'll be optimistic, we had $1 million, right? I could take that money, I could plug it into the software and I could say, I have 400,000 to mill and resurface roads. I have 400,000 for the ones that are real bad, to ground them up, reclaim them, ground them down to dirt, regrade them, and put 2 courses of asphalt back on. And I have 200,000 to do some PM on some of the better roads, so they don't get to that point. It'll give you an objective list. Boom, these are the worst based on that grade, and this is where you should spend that money. Now, do you follow it 100%? Close to it. You deviate for a few reasons. Number one, geography. So if I'm going into a subdivision that has 6 or 7 streets and four or five of them are so bad that we're doing them and the other 2 are close, I'd probably do the whole subdivision, just so we're not coming back here for 30 years. I won't come back, the town won't go back for 30 years. The other thing is, before we develop a paving list, I'll communicate with all the utility companies, because I'm not going to pave a road that the gas company or sewer, or somebody has plans in the next 2 or 3 or 5 years. I probably put it on hold. But short of that, short of legitimate reasons, you can objectively apply the funding to the worst of the worst. It is such a tool. It provides me relief. It provides you as elected officials relief. The town manager's office, because when a resident comes in and say, why'd you pave this road, or why didn't you pave that road? Bingo, here's the program. It's objective. It's as objective as it can be. And again, I was sitting in the same place 7 years ago in the town of Cromwell. I'd come in the summer of 14, and I went through my first budget cycle, January, February, March of 15, and I asked for the same thing. It was a little bit less because they only have 58 miles of road and we have 140 miles of road. So it was about half, a little less than half. They never had a pavement management plan. They bought in. And then, so we had to wait till July to the fiscal year to get that study done. So in the fall, when they came in and they did this presentation, we had instant buy-in. And I'll be honest with you. At first, no resident wants to spend $55,000. They couldn't give me enough money to pave every year, because the feedback from the public, the feedback from the businesses was overwhelming in favor of it. And they took their PCI, we took their PCI from 72. I'll say their roads were in better shape, certainly in better shape than ours are currently today when we started there. But they went from 72 to 85 in 6.5 years, which is really incredible. And I said this to Mark, even if we support this, even if we start putting money aside every year to pave with, again, I want to work 7, 8, maybe 10 more years. I know that it's a 20-year program. It's a 20-year program to get to where you need to be. And you need to commit to it, and you need to stick with it. So again, if we get on it and we follow it, we'll be hopefully halfway done when I retire. We won't be done. We won't be done. But I believe that the roads in town are that poor, and they've been neglected for a long time. I actually looked at some of the, my predecessor's work in his budget presentations, and he was right. He said at the current rate of funding, it would take 81 years to go through town. It's supposed to be a 20-year project. You're supposed to do 5% of your roads every year. And again, does that mean every road every 20 years? No, because some of those residential ones, you probably get 30, 35 out of, but the Echo Lakes, you probably only get a 10 to 12 year shelf life out of because of the traffic. But as a whole, 140 miles of road, 5%, we should be doing about 7 miles a year. And we haven't even been close to that. So I think this is the one thing we can't afford not to fund, just as an educational thing. And I don't think it's going to take away from back to the original question. I don't know that we can do it. I don't think we do it to the level that they would do it for us. It's going to break it down in dollars. It's going to tell you, of your 140 miles of road, you're 18, 20, 25 million, there's $25 million worth of work out there. So again, if you want to get on a 20-year plan, you know what that annual number is. They'll tell you, if you want to maintain the current PCI, you put X aside. If you want to improve it a little every year, you put X plus. And hopefully we get some support. I guess it starts here and then the rest of the elected officials.
Now, do they come in every other year?
Well, that's a great question. So some towns do that every 5 years, some towns do it every 10. I would, and it won't, if you did it on 5 years, you won't be spending this, you'll probably spend half of that. So if you waited 10 years, you would ask for the equivalent to this 10 years from now, whatever, 55,000 plus cost of living or inflation. If you did it 5 years from now, it'd probably be 20, 28, $30,000 in today's numbers. But again, I honestly, to be honest with you, when they bought in 2015, where I was, we did it last year right before I left. I didn't think we needed to do it because we were following the plan. I was curious to see. So it was 15,000 for a 5 or 6 year update. And I told them that I don't think we need it, but I'd like to see if we've been doing this right. And, you know, when you go from 72 to 85, whatever the number, I know the numbers that they told me I needed there. The town gave me almost double that every year. They were so excited. And again, this is a town that never had a pavement management plan. They did what you guys have been doing, take out a bond every few years. They were even worse. They would go out and take some of these bad roads, and they do it here. They'd paint them. They'd put a 1/4-inch overlay over these roads just to buy some time, which is, if that's all you have to work with, that's all you have to work with. But when you do that, you're actually doing yourself a disservice because you're going to lose the crown, you're going to lose the curb reveal, and you're going to create drainage problem. You know, the curb that was now 6 inches, you overlay it a few times, you got a 3-inch curb. And, you know, you get a rainstorm that's supposed to be designed for 25 or 50 year rain event. You got half the curb. Guess what? A smaller rainstorm, you're getting flooded. So I don't blame anybody. If that's the resources you have to work with, you do what you have to do to improve it for the time being. I just think that, like I said to Mark, you know, I was hoping to come here and hopefully when I leave here, it's in a better place than when I got here. So if supported, I believe we will be. And if not, we'll do the best we can with whatever you guys give us to work with. So
Thanks, Lou.
that's the operation part of it. Those are the big drivers. Again, that one thing, I don't know what the town manager, what Mark's going to do with it. I think he's going to support that, and I hope you guys do as well.
Again, I think that I'm in support of it, but you know, this time of year, everybody's got their.
Yeah, no, I understand.
A lot of money.
I understand.
Now, the other question I had was, you talk about potholes and all that in town. Now, I know you have cold patch, you're saying you're short a lot of money and all that. Can you use the millings that we have up at the dump there?
So, no, I mean, it'll wash right out. We
Yeah.
could, but it'll wash right out. I mean, we got money. We're taking it from other things. There's some town road aid and some LoSiP money that was, you know, maybe we wanted to use for other things, but you know, we were out patching. We had 2 patch crews out every day last week with cold patch. And in fact, you can get a hot recycled mix in Thomaston this time of year if you order the day before. Bob was going to try to get a PO in place to, because the cold patch you put in this time of year, you know, a couple rainstorms, 80% of them wash out. But you got to do what you got to do to make the road safe. You know, the asphalt plants will open first, second week of April. So we'll do the best we can with cold patching. If the weather's mild, then we could get some of that hot recycled for the next 6 weeks. We will, but you know, I look forward to getting out there in April, sweeping and putting a permanent patch on these roads.
How effective is it when they're putting a cold patch in now? I see them with the blowtorch on top of it. Is that?
Yeah, you know, I mean, again, it's cold, things are moving, it doesn't bond as much. They try to heat it up. If you put a little tack down, you get, you know, will it make them a little stronger? Yeah. If you heat them up a little, you know, last week when it was 48, 50, 55 degrees, you know, you're not bad to patch. If you bring out a blower and blow the water out, you know, To do it right, it takes some time. You got to set up shop kind of, and you go, I sent them out here because there were so many of them. You're moving a couple feet and you're almost, you're doing a lot of work to patch potholes.
Just curious, has anybody ever asked for a tire or rim to be replaced?
One came in last week. Saying that a couple tires got blown out. And again, it's too early to tell because I think it was Friday, but state statute, right? It's called it's a defective highway statute. So funny, ironically enough, if I'm the first one to hit, if I drive down this road tomorrow and I'm the first one that hits it and the town had no knowledge of it, I don't get reimbursed. I got to go through my insurance company. But if I call it in on a Monday morning
Right.
and I say, hey, there's a huge pothole and throw the address out and I just hit it and threw my car on the line and I got a flat tire and someone hits it on Wednesday and the town did not, that person's definitely getting paid.
Yeah.
Because we had prior notice now.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So one came in Friday. I believe it was something we weren't aware of, but I don't know. I was checking with the highway. We had nothing in our office, no knowledge of it in our office. So that's why, again, we have a work order system. It's a good, good history, good, record keeping.
Sure.
For what it's worth, a lot of people don't know it's a state maintained road,
Yeah,
town maintained road, it may be a state road.
yeah,
So when they call in, they don't know.
yeah. I called the state a couple times last week because, Echo Lake Road, 262, Buckingham, those are all state roads. And I come up every morning, 262, where it takes a right at Buckingham, that intersection's horrible. They still didn't fix it. I called it in last week. I emailed and I'm gonna call again tomorrow. And a resident actually called me on them and I said, I'm aware of it. It's a state road, please call them because I have.
Chair.
Sure, Rachel.
Lou, could you just run through just the biggest drivers of the budget request? And you said the asphalt, the road paving system. What were the other things that you mentioned were going to be the
There was
biggest
one,
items?
engineering staff asked for a $40,000 plotter copier. I guess the one we have is about 15 years old, which is probably the back end of its life expectancy. This is a piece of equipment that not only engineering uses, but P&Z's in there all the time, tax, assessor. So I did make Mark aware that if he decided to fund it, you could actually, share it up to 4 or 5 departments. But either way, it's a piece of equipment that's designed to go 12, 15 years and we're right there. So we're fixing it a few times a year and if not this year, I'll be asking for it again next.
Okay.
So it was the pavement management, it was a few pieces of equipment, it was asphalt. Those are the big drivers of the operating budget.
Okay.
And the rest were just, a couple thousand here, like the street lights. I was do some research on some websites. They anticipate like a 2.5% increase. So that's almost a 275, I put a couple and 1.5% on top of it. So.
Thank you.
And that's really all, that was really the updates I had on that. I would have bring it here, but I thought it's better it comes through the, I don't want to jump any steps and it's up to the town manager to give you what he's got and what, I'm sure he,
Miles of road.
that's under the next one, capital budget. To pave. So again, do you want to get to the next one because that's where the pave.
Yeah, we're ready, I think.
Under capital budget, I'm, I guess by charter, mandated to submit something, and I did back in December. And I did not know before I came here that we don't really have a capital budget, an annual capital budget. So I did put a few big ticket items in a capital budget, which I don't know if any of them will get funded or they'll wait. I think the way they've been handling it here is they wait to take out a bond every few years. I know there was a 2013 bond, a 2019 bond, and then that's where, they take out something big and you draw down on it over 6 or 7 years. Along the same lines, if you go back to that pavement management analysis, a recommendation is going to made. My guess, based on 140 miles of road, is that recommendation is going to be $1.2 to $1.5 million a year that we should be putting in a capital pavement plan. So I did put in a request under pavement management for $800,000 this year. I wanted to break in easy. And I don't think it's enough. I honestly don't think it's enough.
It's much better than previous years.
Yeah. But I can tell you again, I can tell you what I learned the last 7 years. 58 miles of road. We were told to keep the roads in the condition they were in, 500,000 a year. To improve it, it was 650 for 58 miles of road. You could double that plus. So 650 to improve, double that plus. It's probably $1.5 million, $1.6, $1.7 million here, if you really want to make a difference and get to where you should want to get in 20 years. So in the capital budget, I did submit, and whether they fund them, whether they wait to take out a bond, or whether it all goes by the wayside, I put in $800,000 a year for each of the next 5 fiscal years. I don't know if any of you here are familiar with Hungerford, probably one of the worst roads in town from start to finish. A lot of problems there. Stormwater, the whole road needs to be completely ripped down and reconstructed. I have an engineer's estimate of about $1.45 million. I put in for that in this first year.
I'm sorry, how much did you say?
What's that?
For Hungerford, how much did you say?
1.45 million,
Hungerford's from Falls Avenue to Buckingham, correct?
correct.
Yeah.
Right below the school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty steep.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Could be the worst road in town. I put in for 80,000 for Sprucewood Avenue off of Bunker Hill culvert. This culvert runs through 2 residents' backyards, and they have it currently roped off with police tape, and it's the town's. And I was only made aware of this. I was here a month or two, and a contractor started that job a few years back, and for some reason was kicked off, wasn't doing something right. But we abandoned the project several years ago. Meanwhile, these people have a sinkhole in their backyard, 2 people with police tape around it. So we need $80,000. That has to get done.
You said that was Sprucewood?
Sprucewood and Bunker Hill.
Yeah.
If you turn on Sprucewood, it's the house on the corner and the one next to it. Both of them are Bunker Hill Avenue addresses. You could see the police tape there. And I was told that, our estimates are about $80,000, $78,500. I put that in there.
What caused the sinkhole?
I think the culvert just rotted out. It's old. It's an old structure.
Yeah.
I didn't, and again, it's hard to tell without seeing pictures. We don't have cameraing equipment. Hopefully, again, in years, I think sewer should invest in that, and we could borrow it because they got to camera their sewer lines all the time. I think they, probably use an outside contractor to do it.
Yeah.
But there's grant opportunities. I actually in Cromwell, it was a grant, along the line you said share with the Board of Ed. There was something that encouraged small towns to share equipment with each other. I got a grant for a bulldozer with the town of Portland, Cromwell and Portland, bulldozer, cameraing equipment for storm and sewer lines, and a crack sealing machine. And we shared it, and we never had a problem with scheduling it around each other. So that was a 20-20-60 from the state, 20% one town, 20% the next, 60. If we were economically distressed, it was 10-10-80. But again, that stuff dried up with COVID, but I keep my eyes on them all the time if there's opportunities out there. And then there's some other big ticket items in the first year of the capital, but they're grant funding. So you'll see Guernsey Town Road, that's a $3 million grant that's 100% funded. The ADA sidewalk grant that we talked about last month, $1.6 million, 100% funded. And the last big ticket item I put in there in the capital budget was $150,000 request for a study to look at the highway garage. Hopefully at some point in the future, we get serious about a new highway facility. But that's in there.
Edgewood Road. Where they made it the one
Yeah.
way again.
Yeah,
Is that something that
we,
is just gonna solve the issue by keeping the traffic?
I think after it was discussed, the first meeting we had and people were content with it being one way. I mean, we could take a look at it if you'd like.
No,
I
I was, because when your predecessor was here, it was.
Yeah, I talked to staff.
The
I-
road sliding down the hill.
Yeah, I don't get that impression, but
Yeah.
listen, I'll say this. There's a lot of projects. I could have put 50 times that. There's a lot of needs, really. And so what I did, my first year here, I'll say this again, I always try to come in a couple percent. And I didn't realize that we didn't really have a capital budget in place, which is, Waterbury, you had $20 million of requests and $5 million to work, so you guys would help me decide what I'd say priority. Same thing in Cromwell, maybe we had $3 million worth of requests and we got $1 million to work with. And I say we got $1 million, that doesn't mean Public Works, that means police, Public Works, and the Board of Ed. So here, there's nothing. But, so what I did, just so you understand, how did I come up with these, is I said to, I saw a hole in two people's backyard, we gotta fix that, that's a liability, right? But, I said to him, give me a couple good projects. You gotta start with a couple every year, right? I mean, we could hit you at 50. But if you fund a couple of them this year and a couple more next year and a couple more 2 years out.
The only reason why I keep bringing up this Edgewood is because he really scared us at that one
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah,
Gary
I think
Warren here is-
yeah,
No,
I think
but
that,
same
I
thing.
got the impression that if we keep it one way, we're okay. But nothing, so,
That's good to hear, though.
again, I'll say this about a lack of a capital budget, right? And maybe put it in homeowner terms, right? If you had to take out a second mortgage every time you had to do a small home improvement project, you'd never pay your house off, right? You're always in debt. And that's what waiting to take out a bond every 6 or 7 years is, I know as a homeowner that I'm gonna put a couple $1,000s a year into my house every year. Every spring, my wife gives me a honey-do list, right? Paint the house, whatever it is. We just redid the kitchen last summer, did the bathroom the year before. I don't wait to take out a second mortgage to do this. And I think that's what we've been doing here is waiting, take out a bond every 6, 7 years and try to do as many as we can. I think
Well,
it's
that's definitely where Edgewood was gonna be buried in a bond.
yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
having that conversation.
And even most towns, you're like here, my operations budget is affected by equipment. Most other towns, your equipment is in your capital budget. Police department, you got X amount of police cars, they have a shelf life of 5 years. So if you got 30 of them here, you should be buying 5 or 6 a year. Do the same thing with your heavy equipment. You get a longer lifespan out of your heavy equipment, you get less, there should be something there every year to, paving to me, I'll go back to paving, without having some type of plan in place and taking care of a certain percentage of your roads every year. You'll never get there taking a bond out every 6, 7 years. And you know what? That 81-year projection that my predecessor gave was probably pretty accurate based on dollars. And that's just, you'll never get the roads where I want them, or hopefully you guys want them,
Just another question on the capital stuff. You mentioned about putting something in to study the new highway garage. Now, I know they had talks about putting it up at the town landfill. To me, I don't think that's a good site to build it on a dump or whatever.
I don't think it's a great site to build it on. Because you got to be careful where you put it. There's garbage buried. It's going to break that. You can't build anywhere there. And I don't know if there's enough buildable land there. So again, I think, if we're serious about this in the future and you do this, it'll help you do a site assessment and then a conceptual design. That won't design it, but drive around town, I guess the first thing you'd look at town-owned parcels, if there are any big enough, and then you would identify other, commercial type, industrial type properties.
What's your thought about reusing the police department if the police department gets a new building?
That's exactly what I was about to say, Rob.
So what's your thought about that? Obviously,
Yeah.
we have the police department.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't, I guess I never thought of that.
Because there's 12 acres of land behind there that the town owns too.
Is there ledge behind there? Is it?
Yeah, it's a lot of
Yeah, it's all ledge, yeah.
Ledgy and wetlands.
Yeah. Honestly, I was hoping I had this conversation with the town manager if again, and ultimately it's your call, the rest of the town council, but if you're gonna take out a bond to do the police department and the community center, boom, do it all. Try to find one parcel of land. If you got a parcel of land up on near Veterans Park that's big enough, make a community campus. A lot of towns do it. Police, public works, all in one shot. Yeah, one campus, you're all there. Community center, you're all there, But. So enough on that. I mean, again, I just wanted to have these discussions with you because, I honestly, I was shocked to know that I had to submit a capital budget, but one never got approved. Because it's a lot of work that goes into that for not, and, but again, ultimately I'll live with whatever you guys decide on, but hopefully at some point we could maybe change the mindset and start putting something aside every year for capital improvement projects. Specifically paving, that's the most important thing to me. To me, I don't think there's anything more important than that. And then,
What do we know about Echo Lake Road?
so Echo Lake Road, I gave you an engineer's estimate in your packet. I made some. But that's the shoulder of the road that's been closed since last summer, since the big storms, and you got a drainage pipe that collapsed and settling. Probably definitely too big for us to do ourselves. Engineering is working on a bid spec now, and I hope to get it to purchasing within the next couple of weeks. And I understand they have to advertise it for at least 10 days. So I guess there's an outside shot that at the March meeting, I'll be asking you guys for an appropriation for it. You could see that their estimate is about 221,000 and change. That does include a contingency and some other incidentals. So with any luck, it'll be a little less than that. But if we finish that spec, and I asked them to try to get it together by sometime next week, and we get it to purchasing, I hope to present an allocation, appropriation request to you in March, certainly no later than April. But basically, it's replacement of 760 feet of drainage pipe, 24-inch. There's 3 catch basins. And that'll take you all the way down the shoulder to just above Ice House Road. And you'll see in year 2 of my capital budget, there's a second part to that. There's a culvert that actually crosses over under Echo Lake Road to Ice House that also is going to need to be replaced shortly. That was identified a few years ago as something that needed to be replaced. So I'd like to get this portion of the work done this year, and that's going to have to get done through an emergency appropriation because it failed. And with some planning, we can get the second part of it done next year. Questions on that?
On the line coming down Echo Lake Road, it looks like just before it hits Ice House Road, you see it going across. Is that going through the property where the house is at or something? At the corner?
I don't think it goes through any private property there. There's a manhole in the center of the road that they're going to replace, and
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's on the other side of the house.
that one we obviously have no choice on. That one this project has to get done.
Yeah.
What was the cause of the problem in the first place?
There's an old metal pipe under there, steel pipe, and it just rotted.
Oh,
It
okay.
should have been replaced 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
It just rotted. I think honestly, again, when I said that the cross culvert got identified a couple years ago, this was actually identified a couple years ago.
Hmm.
And then the bottom section of it, and it never got funded, and then it failed last summer. So again, there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of them out there. There's,
Yeah.
that are getting old and aged, and, and that's why I'd like to see us get on some type of capital plan and do a few a year, and then hopefully we avoid, a failure where we're coming and asking for an appropriation in the middle of the year.
Yep.
You don't have any questions, we'll move on to the last one.
Yeah, I have a crazy question. This can't have anything to do with what happens on Ball Farm Road.
No.
Okay.
That'd be great. We could fix this and then take care of that.
All right.
No, and if it did, I'd take the fifth anyways, but no, it doesn't.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Oh, man.
Winter update.
And lastly, I just want to give you a winter operations update. As of yesterday morning, we have responded to a total of 25 events. Went out and treated the roads.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean we plowed everyone, Bob called and got the guys in. I checked with Waterbury because I thought that was a little high, but they're about 21 or 22, so we're not too far offline. I'll say this, I've been doing snow operations since 1988. Guys are really good at what they do. They respond, they all come in, and I think they do a great job. I was here for the blizzard that Saturday morning. I came in early for a few hours, went home late morning. I came back and spent several hours there. Of course, the storm wasn't as originally predicted, but it was a good 12 or 14-inch storm, whatever we got. And at no point we were just in control from start to finish. And there was another one, an 8-inch storm back in early January, and the guys, they just do an excellent job. I can't say enough about them. But again, I know Mark mentioned to you at the council meeting last Monday that we're considering making a switch from the salt and sand mixture to straight salt. Bobby Grand Prix did do that on 3 of the 15 routes in the Oakville section, Bamford Avenue. And for the most part, I think it works well. I have a lot of experience with straight salt because that's what I used in Cromwell the last 7 years, and I'm very comfortable with it. I would make it the switch next fall if I could. We would go through a little bit more money in salt, but I tell you look at the roads, and spring cleanup will be so much easier. Catch basin cleaning will be so much easier. When I say sweeping will be easier, the sweepers are probably the most expensive. They're very expensive to maintain. You go through brooms, so you'll save a lot of money with that. You'll spend a little extra money in salt, but you'll save a lot of money in your spring cleanup. I'm actually going to meet later this week with a colleague of mine who was I replaced as the street superintendent in Waterbury 10 or 12 years ago. He lives in town. And he spent the last 12 years in Naugatuck. So I went from a salt sand mixture to straight salt right off the rip. He was in Naugatuck the last 12 years, and about 4 years ago, he was there through the switch. He said it's not as that much, you think if you go from sand, quarter salt to 100% salt, you're not going to triple or quadruple your salt budget. He said if you manage it correctly and you calibrate the trucks appropriately, it's not that much more expensive. And I think it will be good. I'm going to have Bob Grand Prix meet with him when I meet with him as well, because I think it'll hopefully increase his comfort level with the transition. But we did three routes this year. Bob said it worked well. 1 or 2 ice storms, he got a little nervous and they started throwing sand down because they thought they needed the grit for traction. I think the key to it, if you go to straight salt, is getting out there early and pre-treating, because then you get it underneath the ice and you don't have a problem. But I can tell you, the last 7 years, you go through a snowstorm, the next morning when the sun comes up, when you use straight salt, it all melts, it's curb to curb, and everything's running into the catch basin. So we're looking at it. I think when I meet with my retired friend this week, I'll try to make a more educated estimation as what the impact on our salt and sand budget would be. Hopefully come make a recommendation at some point over the next month or two, but I'd like to make that switch, if not completely next fall, certainly add more to the 3 routes he did. And again, I just think it'll make us more effective. Key is pre-treating. You get out there, state does it. I used to throw liquid brine down out in front. You see the stripes on the highway. If you hit your hills and your curves with that first, and then get out there early and put that first little bit of salt down when the weather starts, you're in good shape.
Did you, in your next year's budget that you submitted, did you submit it using all salt?
I did not. Mark actually started asking that question after I submitted. But again, I'll know more. I actually was going to meet with him. I called him last week. He was in Florida. He comes home tomorrow. So I want to sit with him, see what their experience was. They had the same thing. They went 1 part salt, 3 parts sand. And he said their salt budget didn't even quite double going, even though it's only a quarter, so I want to see what it did, what the impact was in Naugatuck, but he said it made his life so much easier. And he did say, like here, there was some hesitancy from the crew, but once they did it, after a couple of good storms, they realized, it was the right thing to do.
What's the downside? Using straight salt.
Some people will tell you it'll rot your catch basins and stuff, but again, I 7 years in Cromwell, we did so much paving, and when someone told me that every spring, we had, I don't know, 1,600 catch basins in town. None of them are rotted. At least they'll discolor a little, but they'll discolor without salt. They'll discolor. I don't really know what the downside is. The undercarriage of your car if you don't wash it. So people tell you that. If you don't wash the equipment, maybe you get a little bit shorter lifespan. If you wash it good after every storm, you're fine.
My son used to go to the gunnery. He used to drive to Washington, and they used some type of green salt.
Yeah. So some are treated, and that's your treated salt. So that green stuff was nothing more than a bonding agent. Some's brown, they use molasses, and then whatever that other green stuff was. But all that is, and I would go to pre-treated road salt because it sticks. That's your adhesive. So if you're going to go out, if an ice storm is coming, and our weather service says it's coming at 9 o'clock tonight, you get out there an hour before, you want to throw it down. You want to have something that sticks to the road. It's a little more expensive, but it sticks to the road.
To the chair. Yeah, listening to questions being brought to you and your answers to us, I want to say that our new Director of Public Works, in a very professional manner, has done some networking, reaching out to other professionals, neighboring cities and towns, trying to gather what's best for your usage here, your interaction with the town manager, your interaction with us. There seemed to be, and this is my opinion, there was a resistance to do so in the past. That may have gotten us in certain situations that we're in now. And you reaching out to try to get what's best for us to utilize for the town. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I would not make a recommendation that the field was in our best interest. And I think some of that reluctancy you just mentioned is out there. But I've had 7 winters of experience with it. And in my opinion, again, it's the only way to go.
I know some people who work at the town hall at your garage, and you're very well liked.
I appreciate that. Yeah, they're good. They're a good bunch of guys. Good bunch of guys. Again, 35 years, 3 towns, You got a pretty good highway crew there. You really do. That's really all I have, unless you guys have anything.
Lou, I know all your trucks are starting to be side sanders instead of the back sanders.
Yep.
I only just make a small strip down the center of the road. Does it seem to be doing a better job that way?
Yeah, so. Yeah, Bob told me he tries to put a little extra salt and sand on the crown of the road, which I guess makes sense because when it melts,
Most of the
it's gonna, you know. But even absent deliberate attempt to do that, you know, they spread from both sides and you go down the road. So like Echo Lake Road, you're gonna go up, you're gonna go down. The center's gonna get a double application anyways, even if you don't try, but yeah. You see it because of the sand. The other thing is, you know, when cars drive over it, the travel lanes clear out faster. And what's in the middle, what you don't drive on stays there. So it's not, you know, I mean, Bob says he tries to put a little extra on the crown. It's going to stay there anyways until you get a good rainstorm. Yeah. Okay. Without traffic.
Sure.
Going back to sort of advantages and disadvantages, what I'm understanding is that the advantage to the sand and the dirt is traction.
So sand, you know, like some of the, I think the crew's concerns are some of the really steep hills. You know, where Cavallo's is Hillcrest and some of those hills there. I think people are gonna, you know, if they're so used to seeing sand and they think they need it for traction, if they don't see it, you panic.
Yeah.
Trumbull comes to mind.
Yeah, but again, the key to salt is pre-treating, and if you decide to make the move, if we were ever to decide to make the move to straight salt, you'd have to get some type of liquid brine set up, and you get out there and you pre-treat those hills. So that when the snow or ice gets on it, you're working it from both ends. And honestly, you plow less in a really deep snowstorm. You know, you hit it early, you plow less. You let this, you know. I mean, Woolkit, I live in Woolkit. They've been doing straight salt for 12 years now, and you know, it works great. And listen, Cromwell to Watertown, there's a big difference in topography because Cromwell is pretty flat. There's a few hills, nothing like this. Naugatuck, it's got the same terrain as we got. Naugatuck coincidentally has 140 miles of road like we have as well. So I think that's a good networking for us because they probably go through similar amounts of material every year as us. So, you know, it'll probably impact our budget similar as it, you know, we'll have the same impact here. That's why I want Bob to meet with him, you know, 140 miles, hills, you know. Yeah, I think that's a good town for us to use to benchmark with. There's a little smaller, you know, Watertown spread out more, but 140 miles is 140 miles.
Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, before we get into the number 8, I don't know if I should have brought this up earlier or not, or we can talk about it in other meetings. People have asked me there about the town dump. They want to know, why does the state want us to shut that down, and what will we do after if we did have to shut it down?
The town, I don't think the state's shutting the town dump down.
Well, they keep telling, someone said they keep every year.
They're talking about MIRA, CRA,
the transfer
that's the
station.
Trash Energy plant in Hartford.
Yeah.
They need like $300 million to rehabilitate that facility, and they asked the state to kick in, and so honestly, I mean, solid waste is getting more expensive to manage because there are problems with where it goes. Fortunately for us, the residents subscribe to your own haulers, and they have an endpoint for that material. But the material that comes out of our transfer station, you know, I think if there's 12,000 pounds of trash, MSW stuff, you know, household trash, restaurant trash in this town every year, 12,000 tons. We only take 150 of it at the transfer station. So it's a small percentage of it. When that plant closes, some of it will probably end up on a rail car and go out to Western PA and Ohio. That's what they're guessing. West Virginia still has a lot. They're filling in the mines with trash.
Oh.
So, the transportation to get it there.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Since they don't ship to
In fact, I would have put it on here. I got a letter Friday. I opened the letter Friday afternoon after the agenda went out that where we're paying $90 a ton for our bulky waste, the C&D type stuff that comes into the transfer station. Boom, they went up to $99 effective, February 1st. And of course, we get the letter on February, whatever the other day was, 11th. But no,
So why are we even in that business?
yeah.
When we have Cherry Hill in water.
Yeah, so we're in the business to work with the residents. I mean, we do charge a little. I don't think we're not making money at the end of the year when you factor in whatever it costs for equipment and labor and disposal. We recover some of the disposal fees, but there's added cost to it. But we have to be there too because it's a closed landfill and you got perpetual maintenance there.
But can residents go to Cherry Hill?
I'm not sure. I'm sure they can. Most,
I'm just curious about that.
yeah, most of them do. I mean, I could check. Most of them will take it in, but it's usually more expensive, It's a little more That's a big, yeah, the transfer stations are always, it's a valuable service to the taxpayers and it's always a hot button and never more than the last few years with the problem of getting rid of solid waste, whether it's trash, whether it's C&D, even recyclables. The recyclables, there used to be no cost because they used to get paid for it. It was commodity. They were selling them. Now you pay to get rid of them. So I said, years, we've been watching this for years. We knew solid waste was, I was so glad we have nothing to do. And the town has really, the residents, you as residents subscribe to your own haulers. So, we're not as involved in it as most other towns are. So that's one, yeah. That was a selling point for Mark to me.
Anything else? Okay. Item 8, looks like we have none.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thanks, Rachel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.